You lie in bed staring at the ceiling, promising yourself you're going to sleep. Then you reach over, grab the glowing screen, and tell yourself just one more minute. Hours later, you're still scrolling, and a deep physical exhaustion sets in. A similar fatigue exists in our professional lives. Millions follow the societal script, earning good grades and working grueling 12-hour shifts, only to find themselves financially underwater. Physical stamina and long hours do not guarantee affluence in a system optimized for cheap labor. Even those who hit every assigned target, securing the promotion or buying the house, often end up sitting in the quiet of a new living room feeling a distinct gnawing emptiness, a complete vacuum. When we realize our habits are failing, our brain assumes the only fix is an instantaneous, total overhaul of our entire life. But the sheer scale of trying to become a completely different person overnight is incredibly heavy. The moment you visualize that level of effort, your brain shorts out and chooses the path of least resistance. We tend to view this paralysis as a sign of weak character. However, the inability to stop scrolling or escaping financial strain is a physical mechanism. Modern digital feeds and economic models are mathematically designed to keep us in a state of high arousal paralysis. Operating exclusively on the default biological and cultural scripts handed to you guarantees you will remain stuck. To change the outcome, you have to change the mechanical response. This chart shows your brain's internal reward engine reacting to modern stimuli. For most of human history, you hit a natural baseline when you ate or found water. Digital feeds provide a flood of stimulation that saturates the circuit, shifting your baseline upward. Normal life begins to feel dull because focused work cannot compete with the high-intensity signals you have grown accustomed to. Reclaiming this circuitry requires neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change its internal structure. But neuroplasticity is not triggered by passive activity. It requires intentional, voluntary hardship. You have to force the brain to struggle through tasks with no immediate reward. Elite achievers utilize specific neural pathways to bypass cheap rewards. Michael Jordan focused on his striatum, the region responsible for procedural learning. He repeated the elbow placement and release of his shot thousands of times until the neural signal became an automatic physical habit requiring zero conscious effort. Pushing through daily frustration physically thickens the white matter cables connecting to your prefrontal cortex. This region acts as a biological brake. When the lower brain screams to panic or quit, this executive center exerts top-down control to keep you on task. You strengthen this neural muscle through the 1% rule, making today marginally better than yesterday. Forcing yourself to read for just 5 minutes on a terrible day serves as a psychological defense mechanism. It protects your identity as someone who is consistent, ensuring the habit survives high-friction days. Overcoming procrastination is a matter of building a biological defense against your own comfort-seeking instincts. By lowering the barrier to entry, you train the brain to stop resisting new behaviors. This mechanical reality applies to your bank account. Schools are optimized to teach compliance and specialized skills, effectively training students to be unquestioning employees. This leaves most people entirely blind to the actual language of wealth. The trap snaps shut the moment you enter the workforce. You secure a steady salary, but that cash is immediately siphoned off by massive auto loans, credit card payments, and brand-name clothes. This cycle forces you back into the cubicle every 30 days just to reach zero again. Robert Kiyosaki observed two differing models of reality. His biological father was a PhD who struggled with money, while his best friend's father built a massive empire despite dropping out in the 8th grade. Their lives proved that financial independence requires a framework entirely separate from academic brilliance. This visual ledger defines the middle-class struggle. A liability is anything taking money out of your pocket. Most people pour their income directly into massive mortgages and depreciating cars, erroneously believing these are assets, while they actively drain the account. The wealthy operate on an inverted sequence. A true asset generates its own independent cash flow, like rental properties or dividend stocks. They funnel their primary income here first, using the resulting secondary money to fund their lifestyle and luxuries. building this engine requires immense friction. Charlie Munger noted that scraping together your first $100,000 is a brutal climb. Once you cross that threshold, the math flips. Your money begins working for you, actively seeking out new ways to multiply itself. Escaping the rat race requires an architectural shift. You must move from a wage laborer, trading finite hours for survival, to an architect building a self-sustaining machine that generates capital independently of your time. This graph illustrates our cultural illusion, the expectation that life is a smooth, linear trajectory toward permanent happiness. Reality rarely honors this geometry. Sudden loss or career collapse shatters the trajectory, plunging us into a chaos we never planned for. Navigating this chaos requires recognizing time as an absolute physical boundary. We often navigate daily choices as if our supply of tomorrows is inexhaustible, because the human brain struggles to process the finality of its own existence. Look at this draining container. It illustrates temporal scarcity. As the remaining volume rapidly decreases, its mathematical and emotional value increases. A resource only carries weight when you truly internalize that it is finite. Within this finite timeline, suffering is a necessary feature. Modern culture tries to optimize pain away, but shadows are required to define the shape of happiness. Without the contrast of difficult moments, the entire emotional spectrum blends into a flat, meaningless gray. Accepting absolute time limits and inevitable suffering disconnects your self-worth from temporary outcomes. When viewed through the lens of a finite existence, a failed project or a social rejection shrinks to its actual microscopic size. Meaning is a deliberate architecture. You construct it by stacking daily microactions and building assets that decouple your time from survival. By walking directly into the friction others spend their lives trying to avoid, you earn the clarity required to lead a fully liberated life.